Welcome, everybody. My name is Bill Lineweber. I'm President and CEO of the National Disease Research Interchange, and we're thrilled that you're with us this afternoon for our 2016 Scientific Symposium. The topics that our keynote speaker and our two group of esteemed panelists are going to be addressing this afternoon speak to neurological diseases and the broad spectrum of neurological diseases, as well as chronic pain, and the role of human tissue to advance research, which we hope will lead to treatments and cures that impact the nation and the world in a huge way, both from a health perspective and an economic perspective.
NDRI's mission is to provide human biospecimens, organs, tissues, and cells to advance biomedical research.
Primary human tissue remains to be extremely important for us. NDRI provided us with the opportunity to get very valuable human tissue from the organ donors.
And there's no doubt in my mind that we're only going to crack those diseases by extensively using human tissues.
Diagnosis for many neurological disorders and conditions can be confirmed only through autopsy. Postmortem brain tissue is a highly sought-after resource.
That was what led me to start searching for CTE, because I had examined brains of people who had been exposed to trauma. And if you notice, one of the greatest mistakes we've made in medical science was when Medicare stopped paying for the autopsy. When the autopsy was removed as a billable item, that was a critically flawed decision. Because the autopsy, whether you like it or not, remains one of the most powerful tools of medicine. Direct tissue examination. And that was what empowered me. I had access to tissues that other doctors did not have. In a week, I could have access to 40 brains to look at and do whatever I want to do with them, as long as I had enough money to spend to finance the studies myself.
The goal is to better understand disease through the study of human tissue. The ability to do mechanistic research in humans, in patients, in tissue and cells from patients, I think really is the fundamental bridge that we must all cross if we're going to be able to do much more than we've done in the past to improve our treatment of pain.
We have a long way to go, and tissue analysis plays a critical role. We may never have all the answers, but the absence of answers does not mean denial of a fact.
On a daily basis, NDRI interacts with scientists in academic, corporate, and independent research institutions around the world.
We worked with NDRI since its beginnings over 35 years ago because we believed in giving families the opportunity to help not just through organ transplants and tissue transplants, but through the option of providing the family that option of research that could potentially help not just 10 or 1,000, but potentially millions of people.
The National Academy of Medicine reports that at least 100 million adult Americans have common chronic pain conditions. Human biospecimens are a critical research tool to advance understanding of the basic mechanisms of pain.
Larger challenge is not just the access to the tissue that you were posing. There are challenges there, but is how do we get access to the tissue with real access to all this other critical information and with ways to analyze it.
The reproducibility is key. It's not enough to get it once or twice. You have to make sure that any data that comes out from this is reproducible.
There are over 100 million people today living with pain. Many of them are looking for relief, all of them looking for relief. One of the best ways to do that is through appropriate treatment. In order to have appropriate treatment, we need to have appropriate research, and that starts with tissue.
I see the value of the human samples is being able to really directly ask the question of how similar are these model organisms that we use for so much of our discovery research to the physiology of humans.
It remains very important to inform our experimental design and our approaches by interacting with the human patients.
It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon. Dr. Omalu made a career breakthrough in 2002 when he became the first doctor to discover and identify chronic brain damage as a major factor in the deaths of several professional athletes. He called the disease chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. Dr. Omalu's findings have revolutionized neuroscience, sports, and the study of various brain traumatic injuries, and the entire sports industry.
One thing I agree with the NFL on is when they define me or describe me as a no-name Nigerian doctor. I refuse to practice scientificity, science for the sake of science, but science that has a utility for mankind. Who knew that something as humble as an autopsy would change sports as we know it? And I bet you why I succeeded was because of that tissue evidence. This all began with tissue analysis of a human being's brain. It costs the American economy $1.1 trillion because of lost productivity due to exposure of children to blunt force trauma of the head in whatever human activity.
It is so critical that we continue to promote and support research efforts.
Families know about kidney transplants or cornea transplants and heart and lung transplants perhaps. They don't often understand how tissue for research can help people. People want to help other people. It's sort of human nature. If someone's in a fire or someone's drowning, they want to help. And if you can explain to them how they can help, including giving tissue for research that's going to cure or be looked at for a certain disease, families say yes.